Hi guys, Ian here. Welcome to my channel and to another video. And today I want to chat a bit about knowledge, wisdom, understanding. Well, let's get the order right from the bottom up. Knowledge, understanding, wisdom. And in relation to the supernals on the tree of life. So Keter, Chokmah and Binah. And over the last, I would say, probably month or so, I've had a bit of an understanding, a change in my understanding of what knowing really is, the process of knowing, at least for me. Because I've realized that, and I'm talking now in relation to my spiritual, esoteric studies, but I'm guessing it's probably a universal principle and applies to everything, at least for me, because I can only speak for myself in these things. I found that time and time again over the last a month, maybe two, where I've had a shift in my understanding and I've realized, or I've reflected on the fact that, well, I knew this information factually, and I understood it technically, but something has just happened which has caused me to know it in a different way. Has that ever happened to you, where it's like a light bulb switches on in your mind and you know something in a new dimension? It's not only intellectual knowing, it's like an emotional knowing. It's like as if it becomes part of you, part of your experience, that you know it to be absolutely right and you understand it in fullness. That's the only way I can sort of explain it. But anyway, this happened to me quite a number of times over the last, say, 6 weeks. And it caused me to think about, well, what's happening here? Because, as I say, intellectually I knew all the facts of it. I thought I knew how those facts related to each other, kind of, understanding what it was about. But there was a dimension of knowing that hadn't happened. And when it did happen, it was that kind of aha. And it was like, it was almost like, if I can use an example, when you put a piece of chocolate on your tongue and it melts and you get that sort of, that's exactly what I mean when I say that aha moment, where there's like a third dimension aspect of the thing that I hadn't experienced before, because that's the word that I would have to use. I experience it. I don't just know it and understand it, I experience it and it becomes part of me. So it caused me to do a bit of digging, and I thought, well, what is this? What is happening and why is it happening? And it caused me to look back at the tree of life, and I found myself at the supernals of, the supernals, yes, Keter, Chokmah, Binah, but also Da'at. Because Keter is crown, so perhaps not so much Keter, but definitely Chokmah, wisdom, Binah, understanding, and Da'at, which sits, you don't see it always in the diagrams of the tree of life, because according to some schools of Kabbalah, it isn't a sephira in its own right. According to other schools it is, but you don't see it diagrammatically because it sort of sits outside of the main image that you see when you see the tree of life drawn. Anyway, Da'at, knowledge, but not intellectual knowledge, oh no, and not understanding or wisdom. It's something else, and I think it is this something else that is responsible for those aha moments. And so I'll go into this a little bit more in my experience now. So First of all, let's just look at the relationship between knowledge, understanding and wisdom. And I realised, okay, that my understanding of it was all wrong. My order was completely wrong. Well, it might have been right at a superficial level and at an intellectual level, but it was wrong at the spiritual level. Because I thought first comes knowledge, then comes understanding, and through the application of knowledge and understanding we gain wisdom. Now, in daily life that might be the case, but in spiritual life, in the spiritual realms, at the highest archetypes, that is not the case. It's the other way around. In those realms, and this is not only my thinking, I'm not just whisking this off the top of my head, this is the thoughts of some very learned Kabbalistic scholars, Arya Kaplan being one of them, where the highest of those and the first of those is wisdom. Wisdom occurs first. And from wisdom flows understanding, and from understanding flows knowledge. Now, how can that be? Because how can we be wise if we don't know anything? How can we be wise without any knowledge? We have to look at what wisdom in this context means. And the Kabbalistic teaching is that Chokmah, the wisdom of Chokmah, is undifferentiated mind. Now, if you think of divinity, at least the divinity that we can conceptualize, because when we represent divinity to ourselves through our names and our functions and our attributes, we must always remember that we are humanity representing divinity in a way that humanity can understand, because the being that is Ein Sof, the infinite, is so far removed from anything that we can know or conceptualize that the Ein Sof is unknowable to us. If we studied Ein Sof for 1,000,000 years, we would be no nearer knowing what it is, what infinity is. So Kabbalists talk about the three veils of negative existence, and we cannot move behind those. Anything behind those veils is forever unknowable to us, whilst we are finite beings ourselves. But from the point of Keter, the first manifestation of the Ein Sof, we can start to know through analogy. So the first Keter then, the first emanation of divinity beyond the three veils, what can we liken that to? Will. Pure will, pure beingness, becomingness. The unity of divinity before it splits into anything else. So the Ein Sof put out into the beginning, the becoming of all that's to follow, but still nothing that we can really conceptualize, because there is no form in Keter, there is no attribute, it is just beingness. So after Keter we get Chokmah, wisdom. Now to me this is divine omniscience. This is the knowing of all things. Undifferentiated mind, Kaplan calls it. Not restricted, not constricted, not defined, not conceptualized. Knowing all things, because all things at this moment is still will brought to a point of focus, of intention, if you like. So wisdom then is all things, the potential for all things that have yet to become. Understanding, Binah, is the potential beginning to take form. So it is wisdom beginning to be defined into possibilities, into all that is possible. And then we come to Da'at, which begins to, I don't really know what the word is really, but begins to crystallize those into, it brings wisdom and understanding into a form that can be represented. Now I don't mean physically, I mean because we're talking about knowledge here, we're talking about, it's like Da'at clothes wisdom and understanding in fact, in concept, in structure, in component parts that can be manipulated and can be represented and conceptualized and applied. So if we think of it like that, if we think that knowledge is only the clothing of wisdom and understanding in a way that it can be seen and utilized, then we see that knowledge does not come first. But from our point of view, from the below, because this is the above, don't forget, at the highest archetype, wisdom flows down to understanding, flows down to knowledge. So we're on the ground, working up, reaching up. So we gain knowledge so that we might move to have an understanding and become wise. We are mirroring the process, but from the bottom up. Now, what I've realized is that when I get those moments of aha, that satisfying knowing, what is happening is my knowledge has reached up and touched understanding. And those moments of illumination that we all get, don't we, when we're on our spiritual journey, that is the wisdom of Chokmah in its lowest archetype in my life and in my experience. And it's like the circuit completes and you get this sense of like the chocolate on the tongue. It's a kind of a bliss in a way. It's a spiritual experience. Now I hope that makes sense to people. And it reveals to me how the study of Kabbalah, the Tree of Life, and the functions of the Sephira can show us what's happening to us, show us what's happening in our world and in our experience. Yeah, so let's have a bit more of this, please. Let's have more wisdom from Chokmah. Anyway, I've garbled on and I'm probably confused you all. But good to speak to you guys again, and I'll see you all soon. Hope you enjoyed the video, and bye for now.